Hi, and welcome back to this second hour of Focal Point on AFR Talk. We'll get more information about that shooting at the Capitol as we get it. Apparently, one police officer has been injured. Let's go back to the phones, and we'll start second hour with a couple of phone calls. Let's start with Iris in Rockwall, Texas. Iris, thank you for calling, and thank you for holding. What's on your mind?
Well, thank you, Brian, for speaking the truth, and you and AFR are such a light in speaking the truth to America, where they don't hear it in a whole lot of places. But what I was going to tell you is my comment about the World War II monument is, and I told my daughter this morning when she asked me for the update update on the news from a conservative perspective, was that we have now faced tyranny. We are now seeing political tyranny for the first time in my recollection. When we saw this is political tyranny. I can't consider it anything less. And I was at that monument in the spring, and this absolutely breaks my heart. I wept too for America for seeing it at a stage like this. Our only hope is God, and we agree with that. But my other question is too. I had heard on an earlier report that the veterans were going to be allowed, only the veterans, World War II veterans, to go to the Washington monuments. Have you heard any reports to that effect?
Well, I think what they're doing, they realize they got themselves a huge PR problem. The Obama folks did that. They got themselves a monster PR problem, putting up these barricades in front of veterans that stormed the beaches at Normandy, so they cannot visit a memorial that doesn't even need anybody to maintain it. There's no gate there. It's just an open air, and like Louis Gohmert said the other day, they're trying to keep people from walking on a sidewalk. It's just a granite sidewalk that goes through the middle of the memorial. So there's absolutely no reason other than vindictive pettiness to shut that thing down. That is all it is. It is vindictive and childish and petty, and there's absolutely no reason for it. It's not necessary. They weren't closed down in 1995, 1996. So this obviously is very intentional. And it's as if Obama wants to stick his thumb in the eye of the veterans, like he's showing his absolute lack of respect for those that have worn the uniform, put their lives on the line to defend our liberties. That's really, what is going on here. And I think you're right. It is a form of tyranny. And here's another example: the disrespect of President Obama for the military. Grocery stores on Army bases are closed. But the golf course at St. Andrews Air Force Base, or Andrews Air Force Base, where President Obama plays golf, is open. So the bottom line, under President Obama, soldiers have no place to buy food, but he's got a place to play golf. That's how the shutdown works for President Obama. And other elements of the shutdown, there's a famous tavern in Philadelphia. It's a private tavern, but it's in National Park property. It's the City Tavern at 3rd and Walnut Streets. It's in the Old City section of Philadelphia. It was opened for the first time in 1773, and it was frequented by the nation's founding fathers. So this is where these guys went. Continental Congress, this is where they went, grab a burger and a brew when they were taking break between their deliberations. It was frequented by the founding fathers. It sits inside Independence National Historical Park, and the building is owned by the National Park Service, but the restaurant is in private hands. But it has been shut down since Tuesday. It was open in 1995, 1996. It's never been shut down before in a government shutdown. And the restaurant has been forced to cancel bookings. They had 200 visitors from Japan that were scheduled to be there last night, and they've had to cancel bookings for the next 4 days. So they got some people that are pretty upset with them. Well, they shouldn't be upset with the proprietor. She's not the one that's shutting the place down. So here is a private proprietor that could be put out of business by President Obama's mean-spirited vindictiveness. She's going to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. She's got an 80 to 100 member staff, and they all could wind up being out of work by the time we are done. All right, anything, let's see. Let me go back to Iris. Anything you want to add, Iris?
Yes, what about a march? What about the American veterans coming and marching on Washington? I thought of the Korean monument that's beautiful, and the Vietnam vet that has a lot of meaning to me as well, because my brother-in-law was a Vietnam vet, and my father-in-law served in World War II, so I'm very patriotic, and those monuments mean a lot to me, and I've seen them twice in the last 2 years. So my question is, what about organizing a march on Washington?
Well, and that's what Mark Levin was talking about. He said, hey, you put a hand on one of those vets, I'm going to have 500,000 people down there, in the blink of an eye. By the way, I love it. I love it personally when Jeff plays sound bites of Mark Levin, because Mark Levin makes me sound like little Miss Muffet sitting on her tuffet, or like Mr. Rogers on, on a NyQuil or something. That's what I sound like next to Mark Levin. So it just makes me look positively comatose by comparison. But that's what Mark Levin was talking about. We'll get 500,000 people down there if anybody lays a hand on these vets. All right, Iris, thanks for the call. Let's grab one from Chris in Mobile, Alabama. Chris, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Hi, Brian. This is Chris.
Hey, Chris. Go right ahead.
Thank you so much. I enjoy your show. It reminds me of the Obama talking about how tyranny's not here. We need to just take your guns away, but tyranny is here. Look, that's what you said. And my other, with the monuments, I thought they were the people's monuments. But anyway, another thing that on the Obamacare, where it seems that we're creating another class of people against class of people. We're taking the money from the young to pay for the old, and are we creating some more, friction between the populace there?
Yeah. Well, and you bring up a good point, Chris. I've made this point before, but it's worth repeating because not everybody hears every minute of this program. But Obamacare is a classic example of class warfare. Chris is exactly right. What President Obama is doing is he is pitting young Americans against senior citizens. And he is fleecing young Americans, picking their pockets, putting a gun to their heads and saying, give me your money so I can give it to older citizens in our culture who have more expensive health care needs than you do. I'm going to force you to subsidize the health care for other people. But the money is being taken from the young and the poor, and it is being involuntarily redistributed to the older and to the affluent. So it's going from the young and the poor to the old and the affluent. Now, normally when you think of redistribution of wealth, you think of money being taken by socialists from the rich and being given to the poor. It's going in absolutely the other direction under President Obama. And I've got we'll get into this in the next segment, but I've got a survey, a poll here that indicates I think something like 36% of the uninsured have absolutely no intention of signing up for Obamacare. The enrollment rates are absolutely dismal. This thing is going to implode before it ever gets out of the starting gate. We'll walk through some of those details with you when we come back. Focal Point AFR Talk. Back in 2.